Hello and welcome to the Mad Leprechaun. My name is Mert Walsh. Clearly today I am in my garage. I'm not doing a bike review. I'm going to fit a new set of brake pads to the rear caliper of my BMW R1250 GSA. If that's something that interests you, please do stick around and stay tuned until after the intro. First things first, I guess, if you have never fitted a set of brake pads to the back of anything before, I guess the first and most important thing is get the right pad. So the pad that I have is TTH, Tango Tango Hotel, 38 Golf Foxtrot. Now, it's by Brembo, but EBC, and there is other manufacturers out there. There is another number underneath Brembo. It's 075270.33. I'll put those numbers in the description, and you know what, I might even put it on the screen so so you know what pad to order for your bike. Whilst I've got the pad in my hand, and hopefully you can see the face of the pad, what happens is when it rains, and clearly if you live in Ireland or in the UK, it rains quite a bit. The brake dust mixes with the water and effectively turns into a paste. And that pasty, brake dusty stuff fills up the grooves. So if you're anything like me, and occasionally you take the caliper off, try and clean out those grooves. I did ask someone who races and they said, yeah, it's a good idea to clean them out. And yeah, and you get a little bit more bite and a little bit more feel on your brakes. The first thing that needs to be taken off is this plastic hugger, which is in the way of the wheel. Just in case you were wondering, these three bolts that hold on the rear hugger are T30s. So the Torx size socket, or for the argument, the Allen key is a Torx 30. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to remove is the rear wheel, and it is held on by a Torx 50. Torx 50 on your ratchet, and have that. Okay, I'm not that strong. I've loosened them already. Now I fitted a set of brake pads to my 1200 Rally, and a friend of mine, Andy Mully, had a laugh because when I used to have an 1150, you never used to have to take the wheel off. You used to just take the caliper off of, I'm sure it was fitted to the final drive. But of course, the 1200 and the 1250, the disc is not attached to the wheel. So because of the way the spokes are shaped, you can get the caliper off, and you can, I know because I've done it, get the caliper back on, but it is a complete pain in the hoo-ha. So the easiest thing to do is remove the wheel. And forevermore, every time I do that, I shall think of my good buddy Andy Mully. Right, clearly, hugger gone, wheel gone, means I can now work and kind of get in around here. The next thing to remove is the caliper. The caliper is held on with two Torx or T40s. You probably already noticed I've already had this caliper off, because you can see where I've been. There's copper slip on there. I do like copper slip. If you're going to put a metal bolt into something that's aluminium, it is my preference to put a little bit of copper slip, and it just helps, as you can probably tell, to so when it comes to removing them again. A bit of wear on that disc, but nothing, there's no big pits or no, nothing too significant on there. Right, let's get the caliper off and get the pads out. Right, before I do too much with the caliper itself, I'm going to cover, or try and cover, as much of the disc and the final drive area as I can, because when I rest that down like that, it's going to scratch everything, or potentially scratch everything that's underneath it. But now I've got a bit of an area I can just rest it on. Right, the first thing I need to do is remove these two pins, and then remove that pin that is going across the back part of the caliper. That pin holds in the pads. Potentially that pin, there we go, should just pull out. And then the pads come out, a 1 and a 2. Now, you remember what I said at the start about the grooves? You see the way the grooves are full of detritus? This one's particularly full. There's still an amount of life left in these pads, but I'm going to change them anyway. I've been putting off changing these for quite some time. Anyway, so the grooves are full. If you get, basically what I do, what I've found is that groove is just wide enough for a hacksaw blade. Don't cut the brake material itself, the brake pad material, just gently slide it through the groove. Clean that groove out and it will get rid of all of your brake dust. The next job is to make room for the new pads. There are your two pistons. I'm sorry if I'm patronising or telling you how to suck an egg, but there's your two pistons, 1 and 2, and those two pistons need to be pushed back in. Pushed back in, I mean they need to be pushed back in to the caliper itself. And you should, really and truly, you don't need a massive amount of force. And I would not say that I'm Hercules or the strongest man in the world, but clearly I've just pushed the two of them back in with my thumbs. But just make sure that the piston is going home properly. And as you saw, those two pistons went home, no problems at all. Right, I'm going to remove this little spring clip because clearly there is a huge amount of build-up of brake dust and stuff in there. I'm going to clean that before I put it back on. And then I'm going to clean with brake cleaner. I mean, what else would you clean brakes with? My brain went, yeah, so I'm going to clean the brake caliper in and around here with brake cleaner. Right. Unfortunately, I don't have the aerosol type brake cleaner. And I want to try and get on with the job. So I'm going to use some Wonder Wheels. It helps to get rid of brake dust and residue. So I've just diluted some of it. Squirt it in there like that. And I'm going to clean it round like that. I think you will have to agree that that brake caliper is now very, very clean. And I even took off this. This goes on like that. Right, so I took this clip off, cleaned it, and yeah, it's still wet. Basically, it's really wet with water now, and so I'm going to give it a little blow over with the airline, which I shall do now. But I'm happy that all of the brake is now gone, and that fits back on like that. That literally just pops. So that pops off like that. But it means I can clean in and around all of the piston faces, and the whole caliper is now free of brake dust. It's clean. Right, let's make it dry before I start putting it back together again. Right, that's all dry now. All nice and dry. And nice and clean. Ready to go back together again. I think, however, I will put a little piece of grease on these slides before I put them back together. I am putting a very, very, very small amount of grease on there. Literally just rubbing on the two slides. Job done. I shall wipe off that excess grease. My next job is to clean this pin. This pin goes across here. You can, and you probably should, use 800 grit sandpaper and rub it vigorously, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna cheat. If it's good enough for Alan Milliard, it's good enough for me. Right, well there it is. There is an amount of corrosion, pitting on the pin, and that's to be expected. It is exposed to the elements. I just don't want that build-up of brake pad material on the pin. I want the brake pads to be able to slide up and down, you know, and do their job. So every garage should have a pot of copper grease. It works really well for lots of different reasons, and it's also a fantastic colour. So a little blob on the end of the finger, and I'm going to apply a little bit of that to the pin that I've just cleaned. I have cleaned this clip. It's like made of spring steel, and it goes in on the back part of the caliper on the inside, and the pads sit up against it. Just before I put the pads in, I thought I would mention these pads. One pad comes with a backing plate, and the other pad doesn't have a backing plate. The one without the backing plate goes to the piston side, and the one with the backing plate goes to the other side. Pad without the backing plate against the piston, pad with the backing plate on the other side. I'm just going to hold them in place. Now this pin, it's really, really important that the pin goes in from the back. Pardon me while I fiddle. So the head of the pin comes out this side, and the clip goes in from this side. So that's how it came out. If you try and put it in that way, the clips, these clips here, they won't go in. Unfortunately, I've got a camera and lighting stuff in my way, so I'm being a bit awkward. My wife would tell you I'm being slightly more awkward than normal, and she's probably right. And there you go, that's what it should look like. And then I'm going to put the brake caliper on. So if you're lucky, that is, and the pads stay in place. The caliper should just go like that. Next job is to fit the 2 caliper bolts, and I like to put a little bit of copper grease on there. So I've cleaned all of the old copper grease off, and I'm applying new copper grease because we like it. Right, and I'll do the same with the other bolt. Copper grease, copper ease, it's all the same stuff. It does the same job. I shall torque them up in a moment. I've put one bolt in dry, so with no copper slip on at all, and you know what, I should have videoed it because that's probably the easiest I've ever put a wheel on the back of a GS. So I'm putting copper slip on each bolt, but the bolt that's in, like I said, is dry. I shall remove it last, put copper slip on it, and put it back in again. Right, all the bolts are in. I'm just going to nip them up, and then I'm going to torque them up. Torque wrench is now set to 60, and work your way around. I'll go side to side. I'm just going to go opposite on this one and torque this one all the way up, and then go opposite on this one. I have tightened up the rear caliper bolts, and to the best of my knowledge, if anybody knows to the contrary, please put a comment in the comment section below. To the best of my knowledge, it is 28 Newton meters of torque. My torque wrench does not go down lower than 40. So I have literally just nipped them up. And I think they're tight enough. The last thing to put in place is the rear hugger, like that. 1, 2, 3 bolts. Let's put them in place. So I'm going to put the first one in on the top, and I'm going to put it in dry, just so it holds everything in place. And slightly controversially, I think, because I've seen different people say different things about this. Some people say put thread lock on it. I don't. I put copper slip on it. So I'm going to put copper slip on my bolts. What you do or how you do it, completely up to you. Torque setting for these bolts is very, very light. It is 8 Newton meters. It's 8 Newton meters is pathetically light, and I don't think there is a torque wrench that goes down as low as 8 Newton meters. So I shall show you in a moment how I work out what 8 Newton meters is, or guess what 8 Newton meters is. Right, I have pinched up all 3 bolts. I'm going to take my Torx and I'm going to put it between my first finger and my thumb and go like that. I'm literally not going to push any harder than that. Gently. That is as tight as that needs to be. Right, there is one more job to do. Can anybody guess what it is? We are around on the other side of the bike, and this is the last job. And that is it, done. But that's a super important part of the job. That means that the brake pads are now sitting just snugged up against the disc. There you have it. So if you've liked this video and you've found it somewhat informative, or you disagree with something I've said, or if you think there's something alarmingly, daft that I've done, please leave a comment in the comment section below. But if you have enjoyed it, please leave a thumbs up. If you haven't enjoyed it at all, please feel free to leave a thumbs down. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below, like I said a second ago. And hopefully, I shall see you in the next one. Until next time, people, take care of yourself, ride safe, bye-bye.